Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Insightful Accountant webinar, the Intuit Practice Management Onboarding Experience, sponsored by Intuit. Insightful Accountant is an online news and information source written for small business advisors interested in the latest news and offerings in accounting technology. My name is Emily Hedrick, and I'll be your webinar host. If you have any questions during the session, please enter them in the Q&A box, and we'll try to address them. Everyone that has registered will receive a follow-up email with the handout and recording later today. Today's speakers are Clayton Crouch and Jeremy Herbal, with customer panelist Kristen Keats. Clayton received his Master of Business Administration from the University of North Texas. He is a product specialist who supports the sales team in the profession of tax group while hosting webinars and professional and product demos for Intuit's professional tax customer base. He is passionate about helping customers implement the right cloud-based solutions which allow them to grow and scale their business and power prosperity for their clients. Jeremy Herbal enjoys getting to put his passion for solving customer problems to work as a product manager with Intuit. His experience from marketing, finance, and services allow him to lead teams to build solutions that power prosperity for accountants and their clients. Jeremy lives outside of Dallas with his wife and 2 cats. Thank you guys for both being here with us today. And when you're ready, you can get started.
Awesome. Thank you for the introductions, Emily. So welcome everyone. Thank you for being here, joining us today. This is, I guess, our third session now, Jeremy, that we've done here. First, we talked about the visibility and capacity planning, collaboration, email management, and then we went to business scalability, the standardization aspect of Intuit Practice Management, and really leveraging automation and technology. And then today we're talking about actually implementing and onboarding in that experience with Intuit Practice Management. So my name is Clayton. I live in Dallas. I live here with my wife and my 1-year-old son. Jeremy, tell everyone briefly about you.
Yeah, just I'm in Dallas as well. I actually was just realizing I'm at my 1.5 year mark at Intuit, so still kind of new, but getting a lot under the ropes now. So thought it was pretty exciting.
Awesome. And then our most important person here on the webinar is actually Kristen. Kristen is one of our awesome customers here at Intuit. And Kristen, I want to thank you so much for being here and speaking with us and giving some insight into the process. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate your business as well. And we'll talk to you a little bit later, but tell us where you're zooming in from.
Sure. Thanks for having me, you guys. So I am zooming in from Sherwood, Oregon. I have a tax practice here in my little town and working from home today. So hopefully no photo bombs happen from either dogs or children, but if so, I'll try to mute.
Fair enough. I totally understand. But yeah, thanks for being here. And, I guess jump into the next slide. We're going to touch on the product today. We're not going to be doing a demo like we've done so before. If you haven't seen the product, check it out. Drop in our website here. We have tons of resources available, videos. We can get you a specialist so you can do that full product demo if that's what you're looking for. But here in the next slide, just to give some more context of how we define Intuit practice management. And I'm sorry if you've seen this slide before, but to summarize, Intuit Practice Management is powered by Carbon. We're simply leveraging what's already proven to be successful, and then we've made some improvements to really satisfy the needs of the professional tax customer base. But ultimately, we're centralizing contacts, centralizing all of your internal, your external communications, automate some of those low value, some of that time consuming work, and then standardize and optimize the firm's workflow. So increases efficiency, increases profitability, and we absolutely believe this software is a critical piece to the professional tax tech stack. So as we jump into the agenda here and what we're going to cover, first, it's really about, what does the onboarding look like? We'll talk through that, why it's important to have an onboarding plan, and we'll also uncover some of those common challenges or common pain points that firms go through when implementing a new software or onboarding. We'll talk about time frame to set those expectations, what the implementation looks like, and then lastly, we're going to bring Kristen in to directly talk about her experience, what worked well, and get her direct perspective. So I think that jumps to, our polling question. Jeremy, if you can launch that. Since we're talking about implementation and onboarding, we want to get an idea of people on this call, what's going on with your firm. So what is your experience implementing, I think we got a spelling error there, but a practice management tool? Was it successful? And did you have supported and dedicated assistance throughout? Was it supported with dedicated assistance, but it did not go well? We did it on our own, but it went well. We did it on our own, but it did not go well. Or I have never actually implemented a practice management tool.
We're getting some good responses here. And it looks like the majority of people have not actually implemented something in the past. So this should be a good kind of overview for what we think it needs to look like we're looking at today. And I'll be interested to see kind of the ones who have implemented it in the past, how ours might stack up against that.
Yeah, awesome.
Go ahead and end the poll in here. Go ahead and share the results so you guys can see. All right, so with that said, it does seem like, like I said, the majority of people either have not done implementation of a practice management tool before, or they kind of did it on their own. So with that, we wanted to look at, what does onboarding actually entail? And I apologize there. Let me get this back up. There we go. What does onboarding actually entail? And we think it's important that whatever onboarding looks like, it's going to be specific to you. And so we have some different levels of onboarding, and the general sense of what we do is the same. The extent of what those look like might vary based on the size of your firm, how many people you have coming on board, the different departments you might be onboarding. Obviously onboarding for a 3-person firm is going to look very different than onboarding for, a 25 or 30-person firm. But the concepts there are all kind of the same in terms of, we're going to have a session where we talk to you about what it is that you need and get you set up and into the system. That might be kind of combined. That might be a couple sessions depending on what's right for you. We're going to go through and make sure you have the right training. And this could be, again, on larger firms, we like to find people who we really think of as champions for the product. These are kind of that front line within the firm who really dive into every aspect of what the tool does, how to use it, where to go to find kind of answers around things there might be questions about. And we really spend a lot of time making sure that they can truly champion the tool and feel very confident in how to use it. And, that might be a few people, that might be a large group of people, again, kind of depending on the size of the firm. And we might roll that into some of the other training that we do for some of the smaller people. But at the end of the day, we make sure that you get all of the, important information on what's in the tool, how to use it, and where to go for more if you need help. Some of our onboardings also include process building, and we find this to be really important. And for a few different reasons, this really comes down to understanding what processes do you have in place today. Are those things that work really well? Are there some that you have an opportunity to revisit and change? We find that when you're changing a practice management tool or a workflow tool, this is a great opportunity to evaluate those and make any changes in order to lean into what's going really well, or kind of alter things where maybe they're not as efficient as you'd like. So we work with you to kind of build out what those processes look like. And then also, as part of that kind of building out the system, we work with you to make sure that you know how to get them into the tool, or we either work with you to import them directly. So again, kind of based on what your needs are, we'll work with you to make sure that we get them into the product so that when you start using it, all of your processes and templates are there and can be used and ready to go. Again, kind of the team training based on the size or the needs of the firm. This might be a champion team training combined situation, or separate things where we train a smaller group of people as champions, and then we do a larger group with that team training. In addition to that, we also provide you a lot of resources of some videos to watch on how-to videos, some articles to read, and things like that, so that not only do we do that live training with you, but we also give you the opportunity to kind of go beyond that and get some additional information. Then kind of that last piece, we go live. If we turn it on, we launch, we get people into the system. We learn what's working, where there might need to be some additional help. We do that post-launch support. Depending on your needs, this could look like a multiple follow-up calls where the onboarding specialist, gets on the phone with you, spends time to see, hey, what's been working, where might you need some help, do you have any questions? And we'll do this a few days after you get up and going, as well as a few weeks later. And of course, during that time, you also have access to the support team to better understand that. And the other thing here is all of this is done with a dedicated resource for you. We have a whole team of onboarding specialists that implement Intuit Practice Management, and you're assigned someone who's going to work with you throughout this entire process. So that's our methodology, is we want you to have one person who's working with you, who kind of manages your onboarding experience from start to finish. And that way you get to know them, they get to know you, and they're going to be able to provide you with a lot of value because of that relationship that gets built. Clayton, anything to add on this?
No, I think just emphasize, like, regardless of size, we put this in place to ensure that all size firms are up and running and implemented successfully, with that personalized help, right? With that personalized support. And there's a lot going on here, right? But it's to ensure that you understand the system, your team understands the system, and moving forward, you have the resources to be successful and get that value that got you looking at the practice management solution to begin with.
Exactly. That in mind, kind of you go through the onboarding process, but then what happens after? And this is where I kind of mentioned, we provide you with, there's a lot of great resources within the tool itself, or that you can get to through the tool. There's a help and feedback section. This has a lot of articles that are linked to. There's really good search there on, just different areas of the application, different features and functionality. We also have a lot of how-to videos in there. And so if just reading through an article isn't always the easiest thing to do, sometimes a video is going to be more helpful. And for a lot of features, we do have how-to videos on how to get it set up or how to use it. And of course, we're always adding to this repository. So as we add new features, or as we get questions in an area that we feel we need to add an article to, we are always growing that and expanding that. There's also some best practice articles. So between Intuit and Carbon's customer base, we have quite a lot of customers and accountants who are using this product, and they provide a lot of feedback to us. And so we find what works well across the industry, and we put together some articles and helpful tools for our customers to see, hey, here's what other firms are doing that's working well for them. Maybe it's something that's going to work well for you. But we give you that access to where you can see, hey, here's how other people are using it. Really just kind of a best practice mindset there. It's also keyboard shortcuts. So a lot of people like their keyboard shortcuts. Through help and feedback, we point out what some of those are, as well as some general tips and tricks on just how to navigate the software or do things within the software to make it easier for you. And lastly, within there, there's a lot of instructions on how to set up integration. So Intuit Practice Management integrates with a variety of other applications. Some of these are pretty deep integrations, others are less so, but either way, we do provide you with step-by-step instructions. So if you want to go in there and tackle it on your own, you can. We give you all the details and information that you'll need in order to do that. And if you just follow that guide, you'll be up and running. But if you need some additional help on any of these things, the other thing that we have is there's a dedicated team for phone support for Intuit Practice Management. So this isn't the same team that manages, supporting our other products. It's dedicated just for Intuit Practice Management. And that's available to all of our customers. You can always pick up the phone and call in. We also have in-app messaging. So if you're just within the application, that little circle down, I think it's in the bottom right, you can click that, get someone on chat and start working with them, and real-time messaging to help you through any of your questions or anything like that you need. And we really like that. That's one of the things that sets us apart on what we offer, is that dedicated phone support, regardless of what tier you're at, regardless of what kind of customer you are. If you're one of our champions and an admin in the tool, or if you're just someone who uses the tool occasionally for some workflow, you have access to that phone support, and you're always welcome to call in and get additional assistance if you need. And that's something that not everyone offers. And so we're really happy to be able to give that to our customers. Clayton, any additional thoughts on kind of the after onboarding?
No, I think as you talk about scaling, right, and adding employees, they weren't a part of the initial team trainings, having that help and feedback, which is, can I start calling it the Intuit Practice Management Google, Jeremy? Am I allowed to do that?
I think that's kind of what it is. So yeah.
So having access to that and getting the new staff up to speed by having those in-app resources to make sure that you're using the system to its fullest capabilities while getting those best practices, I think is really critical. Just having what you need to make sure that the team is using the system to its fullest capabilities.
Exactly. And we do all of that. Plus, I mentioned there's some deep integrations, specifically around the tax product. So if you're a ProConnect or Lacert customer and you're integrating with Intuit Practice Management with your tax product, part of that onboarding is actually getting you set up with that. So by the time you're done with your onboarding, either that initial onboarding call or shortly thereafter, you have all of your contacts from your tax product in the system ready to go. We've brought in all of your return in terms of you have a return for this client and here's the year that it's for. We bring that in and create a work item for it so that you're ready to start working on that. If it's one that's already been filed, so right now, your 2019 returns are done. If you were to set up and get them onboarded and brought in, we'd have work items for those that are marked as completed, but the schedule would already be there so that your 2020 return work items can get kicked off automatically. So we really try to go through the process of getting you set up to where you're ready to start working right out of the box. And we do assist you with getting these integrations done. Also, for the Intuit ecosystem, IPM integrates with T-Sheets, as well as, if you're a ProConnect customer, you might be using QBOA that's linked in there as well. We work with you to get that set up, or we kind of help get you the help that you need. If we can't do it for you, we certainly get you in touch with the right people who can. So we really try to make sure that you're set up to have those integrations working, because that is one of the benefits that IPM offers, is those deep integrations. All right, so next, kind of talking about onboarding plan. We think it's really important. We've actually spent a lot of time reviewing the onboarding process. Intuit, when we partnered with Carbon, we looked at what they did and kind of used that as a starting point. We looked at what other Intuit products do to onboarding new customers. And we went from there and have refined it and kind of iterated on that and brought what we think is right now a really, really good plan and methodology on how to get our customers onboarded. And we think it's really important because we've seen what happens if you don't have this. There's additional friction in terms of getting people on board. There's really a lot to be said for having everyone in your firm and in your practice involved in that onboarding process. And we want to make sure that our plan puts out there in place what it's going to look like. Everyone's going to know exactly when different things are coming. It makes it easy for you to, let your team know we're rolling this out. Here's what that rollout looks like. And it gives them an opportunity to be prepared for it so they're not surprised. And it really does help things go more smoothly when you do it that way. The plan also gives you, like I mentioned before, a good chance to review existing processes. Having a plan in place, knowing we have a dedicated session to sit down with someone familiar with this and with our own firm and go through what our processes are. It gives you a chance to prepare for that, to really know what to expect before that and then after that. And it does help in terms of getting alignment there. And then lastly, having a plan really does improve that speed to benefit. You have a plan, when things are going to occur. It's really important to not just turn things on and hope for the best, but really have a plan on, if we follow these steps, we know we're going to see a return on our investment by this time. And it is going to make that a lot faster because you're checking off those boxes in terms of getting everyone in the system, getting everyone trained on it, having a plan on here's the different processes that we're rolling out or any changes that we're making, here's how you use it, and really seeing that benefit a lot sooner than if you sort of just hope that people get in there and start playing around and hopefully we'll learn it. We really think that this helps. And then lastly, I know we've talked about this a couple of times, there is a dedicated specialist to ensure that you have a successful implementation. We assign someone to your onboarding and they work with you from start to finish. And again, I really think that having that level of dedication will go a long way to getting a successful onboarding experience. Any additional comments on that, Clayton?
The only thing that comes to my mind is, one of our values at Intuit is learning fast, Jeremy. And we put a lot of thought into making sure that firms are having a successful onboarding. But as we onboard customer after customer, not only our agents are learning, we're improving processes as well to make it future-proofed. So, Kristen being an example, going through that specific onboarding, there's learnings from that. So we're implementing those as we go to ensure that moving forward, that speed to benefit really kicks in sooner each time.
No, that's a great point. Yeah. All right, some common pain points, and I'm sure that Kristen can give us some examples when we talk to her, but things that we've seen, some of these are general for if you implement anything new, you're going to run into this. And some of them are a bit more specific to like this situation, but really that change management for team members. This is something that basically almost every customer I have talked to who has implemented a practice management tool, this is something they encounter. And so we try to get ahead of it. Like I mentioned, part of having that plan and part of having the methodology that we use to make sure everyone is aware of what's going on, what those changes look like and things like that. We really try to mitigate these changes by getting ahead of it, getting people involved. Having everyone involved in the journey really goes a long way towards getting them to adopt the change. Not only that, it also lets them see the value. If you bring everyone in the firm in early on during this process, let them know it's happening, let them know here's why we're doing it, here's the value that we're going to get at the end of the day. that really does help mitigate that difficulty of getting people to adopt it. And that is something that we found does help with that. And to Clayton's point, the more that we do this, the more feedback we get from customers on how they've been able to mitigate that. And we do incorporate that into our additional onboardings that we do in the future. Similar to that, the process changes. Again, this is fairly common with any new software, but specifically since this is around kind of standardizing your workflow and getting a standard process that you put in place, there's probably going to be some changes that your staff encounters, where maybe they were doing a certain type of work one way, but you're standardizing that process, and so there's some changes they need to become accustomed to there. So really trying to, again, get ahead of that by letting them know what those are. And again, that process building session gives you a chance to get feedback and come into that with some ideas of how you're going to make those changes. Then after you implement them and you put them into the tool, having them in the tool is really helpful because you can point people to those templates of what that process looks like. And so maybe even before they ever have to do that particular task, you've been able to show them, here's what it's going to look like. They can see it. There's no surprises there. They'll be able to review those with you and understand what they are. And hopefully that will lead to an easier adoption once they get in there and start doing it. This last point, this is a bit more specific to our situation. This is around having clean data. And I have their links to homework. When we're onboarding with you, we send you a lot of emails, and some of those do have some links, and we can provide them a bit later as well to homework, basically, of here's what you're going to need to do before your onboarding session. This is especially true for our Lacert customers. We find that just because the nature of the product and especially the nature of the history, our Lacert customers are usually longer use of that product. Just it's been around longer than ProConnect, and so it does have a greater history there. There's going to be some data that probably needs to be cleaned up, and what we want to do is get you set up to where you can succeed, and that means coming in with a good starting point. So there's going to be homework for you. It's going to really focus around making sure that your client list is in a good place, so that when we bring your clients into the system, you have the right list. You don't have clients in there that are duplicates. You don't have clients in there that you don't actually need to have in there for whatever reason. So we give you a chance to do some of that cleanup. But that is really important. And one of the things that we find leads to a faster onboarding process is when customers have a chance to go through and do that data cleanup prior to getting into the system. So like I said, one of the first things we do is in one of those very first emails, we give you a checklist of here's what we want you to do to get prepared. We give you some links to resources on getting there. Again, you can always reach out to the onboarding specialist who sent you that first email and ask them for help if needed. But getting that clean data is really important to make sure that you are set up for success. Clayton, any additional thoughts on this one?
No, really good stuff. Super transparent on the clean data, right? It's not, we want this to be the single source of truth moving forward. And in order for it to be that, we have to have clean data coming in. So if your tax software is all messed up, you need to spend the time and clean it up prior to onboarding, right? Because we want it to be smooth and you see the benefits long term. And I think the first one, change management is a really good point, because change and implementing any software is hard enough in itself. So I think being able to clearly communicate to your team why you're doing this and the long-term benefits is really important for them to be on, everyone being on the same page, everyone rowing in the same direction, and using the software to its capabilities. You have to understand the why before. So no, good stuff.
Exactly. All right, so this leads us to one of the questions we get all the time. How long is this going to take? How fast can I be up and running? So we wanted to point out a few things here. First, I know this is something that everyone usually agrees with, but when you think about what it means in terms of onboarding, no two firms are the same. it might, take longer for someone to clean up their data. And so their onboarding process takes longer. Maybe you recently have redone all of your processes, and so you're ready to just get them in the system and go. Maybe you've never reviewed your processes and you're like, hey, this is a good time to do that. And you want to take the time to do that before you really start using the system. It's going to take different amount of time for different people. And so that is something, this is a personalized onboarding experience for you. We have a methodology that we use, but we don't just throw you through a checklist. It is custom to a certain extent for what your firm needs. And so it will take, as fast as we can get it done, or as long as it takes for you that you're comfortable with. But one of the things I can say is that we'll work with you to get you up and running when you need. If you need to be done faster, we'll work with you to understand, well, what can we do in order to get you there? If you have the ability to really take your time, we work with you for that as well. We don't say, hey, you have to be done by X date or else we're cutting you off. We work with you to get you up and running and get successful, whatever that looks like for you. The next thing, we have had some customers who they fully onboarded in as little as 3 days. They had their initial, kickoff email and call. I think it was like on a Friday. By Monday, they were in the system. Everything was set up and ready to go, and they had people using it. So the system is designed so that you can be up and running right away, depending on your situation. The system will support a very fast turnaround from the time that you purchase the product and we get on the phone with you to get you signed in until the time that you have people and they're actually doing work. The system can work that fast. It really, what we find is that the customer might need some additional time for the data. They might need some time for getting their team trained out. It really depends, but the system is designed that it can move very quickly if you need to move quickly, and you're capable of moving that fast with your situation. And that kind of brings us to the last point. We work with you for what you need. If you need to get everyone in right away, we'll do our best to make sure that you're as successful as possible in getting everyone in there quickly. If you have 5 different departments, you're a big firm, you want to bring them on one at a time, we'll work with you to do that too. We really do make sure that whatever your situation is, we're working with you to make you as successful as we can, depending on that situation. Like I said, we have a methodology, we have a list of things we make sure that you're doing in order to be successful, but we're not just going to leave you hanging, and we're not going to not take into consideration your own needs when we're working with you to get you onboarded. Clayton, anything to add here?
I was going to add, having the system, I think you mentioned something about the system being designed to get you up and running quickly. Like, we give you 30 plus templates, and all of your tax work is already mapped, to the appropriate work template, and it's put on the appropriate recurring schedule, and your email is already, integrated. So a lot of the things that allow for the collaboration and getting work started on the tax side, a lot of that's already there. But as far as the length of onboarding, I think no 2 firms are the same. We'll hear from Kristen here in a sec, that experience based on firm size. We've seen some firms that, have, 20 plus users, and they want to implement their tax team first, and then they're going to move to their bookkeeping team after they've had a successful tax. So it just depends on what your situation is, what you're trying to accomplish, the partners who manage each one of those groups. But that's all determined up front during onboarding. We consult and we decide what the best course of action is for you, and then attack that plan.
Exactly. That's definitely a good call out, and a good kind of reminder of having the onboarding plan and building that together, so that whatever it is that is going to work, it's already planned out and we know what it's going to be. All right, with that, let's talk to Kristen and kind of get firsthand knowledge of what was an onboarding experience by an actual customer, someone who went through this. So first,
Kristen's
Kristen,
dog's gonna pop in here in just a second.
The first thing is just, I know you gave us a quick intro of where you're at, but if you can give us a little bit information about your firm, how big are you? What are some of your services you offer? Things like that, just to set the context, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, so primarily it's a tax firm, but we do bookkeeping as well. We are I was just looking as you guys were talking, so I've got 9 users on my Intuit Practice Management. So that's the size of our team. So we're a relatively small team.
No, that's great. So kind of with that in mind, before we get into the onboarding experience, if you can just real quick kind of say, how'd you hear about Intuit Practice Management and why did you decide to go with us?
Yeah. So I had actually at my previous firm had some experience with Carbon, so I was familiar with the platform. And then I think, and so I have to let you guys know, so I only just bought this firm September 1st. So all of this has all happened really, really fast. So, and Shauna, the previous owner, we had been talking about some of their systems and processes. And when we saw that Intuit had come out with this, that's integrated with Lacert, we were super interested in it. And so I think it was before the end of September that I even just got a demo with you guys and got to see the product, how Carbon and Intuit kind of came together on it.
Very cool. Can I ask you what your, I know you just took over the firm, but what, when you're analyzing the process that you came into, what were the challenges that you were faced with or the firm was faced with, and what were you trying to overcome by implementing a new technology?
Yeah. So yeah, the system that they were using was a desktop based system. So that was the first problem, that we needed something that was in the cloud, because we work, not only COVID, we're working remote, but we also work with an offshore team. So we just absolutely, all of our tools had to be in the cloud. So that was number one. Number two was with, the transparency was really the huge thing of why this product kind of came to the forefront. Because if you think about, we have a founder that's leaving, that has been running this practice for 12 years. So much stuff is in her head or in the email inbox that we need to capture and that the whole team needs to see. So that was really critical for all of us.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually have a father who's a CPA who uses Intuit professional tax software. Wanted to throw that out there, but he's old fashioned and he's doing it the same way, right? He has all of it in his head. He's taught everyone individually how to do things, but as far as scalability goes, right, you have to future proof your business, right? When you're purchasing a business, those are the things you're thinking about. COVID aside, right. It's 2020 and technology is advancing and you have to have that moving forward. So that's really good insight.
Well, that's the thing too. With the scalability, that was the other thing. Every time I turned around, there was another spreadsheet that I was like, there's another spreadsheet that we're tracking things on, so we just needed that single source of truth. And we needed that one set of processes that everybody's doing. And again, we're a small team. I can't even imagine if this was a big, but I know that it exists out there, that there's lots of practices that everything's in people's heads.
Yeah. I had a conversation with one last week, a 20-person firm, and it's hard to comprehend how it runs that way without the standardization across the board. As you grow, things can get lost. Manual things are happening constantly. Can get kind of chaotic.
I was shocked by your poll that it wasn't 40% of the participants on here aren't even using anything.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of interesting. One of the things that we find is that people who have used something before really understand the benefit of Intuit Practice Management, and it's an easier discussion with them. And it's kind of a little counterintuitive, because you'd think, oh, someone who doesn't have anything, it'd be easy to see why this is so amazing and so great. But it's actually a bit more work to kind of help them get there and help them through the journey of, what you're doing might be working and it might be great, but think of how much better it can be, by having these tools in place.
Well, it's like the Wizard of Oz, right? She's in black and white. She doesn't know till she opens that door and the whole rainbow world is there,
Exactly.
The world exists.
Exactly. So getting back a bit to the onboarding topic, Kristen, if you can kind of give us an idea of starting with probably the good, speaking of the Wizard of Oz, what was some of the things that really wowed you with the process, or that you found to be just really great and that you enjoyed about the onboarding experience?
Well, number one was our specialist, Monica. Number one. I mean, just to have that, like you said, it's funny, you develop this relationship and with this bond I did not expect this at all, that she was so great about like keeping us on task and giving us our homework. And there was just that accountability. And I got to tell you guys, we're kind of crazy because I think we started our onboarding on October 2nd, which was like the worst time in tax world, right before the extension deadline, but we had reasons why we had to do that. But she was so patient with us and she was just amazing. So I have to say she's number one. And number two, I was pretty impressed with how, this being a relatively new product for you guys, that you had kind of like thought of everything as far as like preparing the data and doing the checklists and the homework and all that kind of stuff. Like I was very impressed with that and with the training, and Monica was so great too, because she like could anticipate all the mistakes we were going to make. She's like, no, you don't want to do that because here's what'll happen. Just that experience. I was like, how is it that you guys have only just started this? Because it was almost like there was this depth of experience that I didn't expect at all.
No, that is definitely great to hear, and we appreciate that. And it's a good point. We started selling Intuit Practice Management, I think it was last May. So we're just now at the half a year about mark of where we've been selling Intuit Practice Management and doing that. And so we, to the kind of what we were saying earlier, we really tried to make sure that we were setting our customers up for a good point by spending the time to analyze what works well and what doesn't, and then to even find what worked well with you and make sure that we do more of that with our next customer. And then the reverse of that a little bit, what's maybe something that you would have liked to see more of from the onboarding, that where you felt that we could have done differently during the onboarding experience, so that we can make sure that we're iterating on that?
Yeah. So the only thing was, and again, this was probably our mistake, so I will warn anybody, if you are thinking about going on Right Networks, do that first before you onboard, because we ended up kind of having it twice, because we onboarded with our desktop cert and then we moved to Right Networks. And I was like, oh yeah, Monica, I forgot to tell you that we did this. She's like, how could you not tell me this? So like, yeah, so that was a little more like pre-planning. Maybe, I don't know if that should be on anyone's checklist to ask about that, but anyway, again, with like our movement to the cloud, we had to get out of our desktop cert. Like that was our other thing that was on the checklist. So, but that wasn't on you guys. I mean, that was more on us. I mean, the thing I will just warn to everyone here, and you guys touched on this, but I just want to underscore that change management is real. This product absolutely needs 100% team buy-in. I mean, it's like everybody has to row together, and that's the only way that it works. And so whatever people can do to kind of pre-plan and pre-pave that road to make it as easy as possible for the staff. I mean, so I would even recommend that even before you buy the product, document your processes. I think you guys said you were going to send out some of those checklists. So I would say if you're even thinking about doing anything like this, start doing that process now. Start mentally preparing the team, because I think accountants in particular might be particularly tough subjects for change management. So it was a big lift. I mean, so that's why I'm like, when I saw that slide, like can be up in 3 days, I'm like, no way. I mean, unless you're starting from scratch. If you are just starting a new firm, like, okay, fine, I'll go with you there for 3 days. But anything that is existing, I can't even imagine that.
No, and that's the thing, is it kind of highlights the system can get you there, but it's really where the customer is at. And to your point, you have a lot of things going on. Some customers are like you. They're shifting their hosting solution, or they're going to the cloud, or they're shifting their tax software or some other software, and trying to work around that and make sure that everything's sequenced out. And to your point, one of the things that we make sure we're doing going forward is checking that list with the customer of, hey, what else are you doing right now? Are you making any changes? Are you planning on making any changes? We don't want to get halfway through onboarding and then find out that this other change is coming.
Right.
So really trying to get through that list of what else is going on. And then the buy-in piece, I think, is really important as well. And something that we've learned the more firms we onboard is really making sure that we work with you to understand who needs to be involved at what stage. To your point, everyone needs to be involved at some point, and really making sure that we get a better idea of who is in your firm, really answering that question. Because one of the things is sometimes people don't always think to mention everyone who's involved. And suddenly you're at the end of onboarding and, Megan shows up and you're like, well, who's Megan? And they're like, oh, well, she's going to be doing this for bookkeeping. And we're like, well, it would have been good to know about Megan, And so having the conversation about who is in the firm, who's going to be using it, and making sure they're plugged in throughout the entire process.
Right. And I mean, that was kind of sadly, our offshore team was kind of like part of that too, because we weren't even sure, like, are they going to need to be in this? And then the more I learned, I'm like, oh, they can't not be in it. If like anyone who's doing the work needs to be in this thing. So that was like another regret I had. I'm like, I should have brought them in at the beginning so they could have been involved in like doing the self-training and stuff at least while we were doing the champion stuff. But yeah, everyone needs to be on it.
And that makes sense. And that's a good call out. And it's, one of the things that we really try to work with our customers about, and you kind of touched on this, is the fact this is a time commitment. Rolling out something like practice management, it's going to take time from the customer. And, we understand that and we try to work with you around that, but it is kind of just good to have a customer reminding people about that of, this isn't something you can just flip a switch,
right.
And just magically everything is there. It does take time and it does take some buy-in. And so we're not trying to scare anyone away by that, but we do at least want to make sure that you come in.
And it's a difference in the whole workflow too. Like, I mean, so to get out of, and it's a good change, but to get out of your inbox, and before IPM, I would get to work, log into my computer, up comes my Gmail inbox. And that's basically where I live all day. And now I live in IPM. It's a total shift, and it's more efficient. It's way better, but it's probably at least a couple week mental shift to get that over.
Sure.
That totally makes sense. On that point, then, maybe what's one of your favorite things about the product itself? What do you really enjoy?
I think it has to be the way that like email is handled, because again, it goes back to that transparency that everyone on the team can see things. And and not only that, I kind of love how like a client will email something, we can comment on that email and have this whole back and forth between just our team that the client never sees, without it's just like clogging up in the reply all and all that stuff in your inbox. I just love that part, that it's just the email like lightness is so much better now, just with that. So that's just a huge thing just by itself. It's like, if that's all it did, I would be totally happy with that. But I mean, I think the other thing is the standardized processes, and really like having that source of truth, like you said, instead of the 17 spreadsheets that we have. It's like, no, everything lives in here. And this is our source of truth. And so we don't need to go out and find things. I mean, especially like, I mean, it's probably funny, like to them, because as an owner, I'm coming in with new eyes and just saying like, where they have kind of like been the frog that's been boiled like slowly, and so they don't even notice. But like, I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on here? I can't find anything. So sometimes I'm not their favorite because of that. But
it's a really good point though, because so many firms are stuck in those traditional, manual workflows that they've been doing for so many years. And it's hard to, you can't really see it with a fresh pair of eyes, because, the jobs are getting done and it's just been getting done this certain way for so long. My dad being one of those examples.
Is he on the webinar? You have to have him watch the webinar.
So he's actually retiring next year. So it's in his eyes, it's up to his partners to figure out all this technology stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But no, the email, the collaboration piece is huge, right? You're getting hours back instead of spending time filtering and working and using your inbox as a task list. Super frustrating for a ton of our firms. And then the standardization is so important for all of the workflows that you have.
Yeah.
And for scalability, Kristen, as you grow your firm, how are you going to get new people up to speed? Well, you have it right there, documented, standardized.
That's what we're doing. And we're just building those templates. And it's not like, one thing I did want to point out, it's not like it's one and done. Like those are going to always be evolving and adding to, and we're even getting like very granular and specific ones with each client, with each project, because like for each client, like a bookkeeping client, we might say, oh, we need the Bank of America credit card. We need the US Bank checking account, like all those specific things. And then those tasks can roll over. So literally, you know, if Stephanie goes on vacation, that Julia can jump in and just do that bookkeeping task for that month until she's got, and not have to figure it out from scratch.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And that's one of the things I really like to see is customers using it for that purpose of standardizing it in such a way that anyone can come in and pick it up if need be. And so that's really good to hear. Kristen, anything else you might want to add or comment to people who might be looking for a practice management tool and things to consider?
Well, here's what I will say, because having just had a brief experience with Carbon before ultimately going to this, I will say that, I mean, I told Jeremy before, I'm like, please don't change anything, because this onboarding part was so huge, because there's just nothing compares to, like I said, like that experience of Monica saying, oh, wait, don't do that, because here's why. And I mean, yeah, you can self onboard, and, you know, I'm sure all the training is out there, but there's just no substitute for someone not only just like holding your hand and helping you, but having that accountability. Like, we had to be ready for that meeting with Monica, like that Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. It was just, it's like going to the gym, right? It's like, there's never, ever going to be a convenient time to do this. There's just not. And like, you know, we're on the other side and we're just already seeing the benefits of it. But I do just like want to prepare people, like, it's not convenient. It's going to upset the apple cart. And so just be prepared for that. But I think, let's see, I was making notes while you guys were talking, but I think that was it. Yeah, it's just that. But I mean, the thing that the dividends that we're getting is with that transparency and with the standardized processes, which, by the way, if you talk to any evaluation people, that's what builds value in your firm, is having standardized processes. I don't build value in my firm by having the Kristen show. Because when Kristen goes away, that's all the value walks out the door. The value in the firm is having standardized processes that anybody can walk in there and serve those clients. Because I'm no spring chicken. I want to be on an island in 3 years, and I want my firm to run itself. That's my goal.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, customizing those standardized processes to your firm and your clients, right? And make it unique. Like, the baseline template's there, and then it's about standardizing and improving and making it unique to yours, so then your specific client base and your staff have what they need, you know, long term. And you analyze that frequently, right? You make tweaks when you see things can be improved.
Yeah. Oh, Kathy's on board with my life plan. So
I think that's a good goal to have. All right, so Kristen, thank you so much for talking through that with us and giving some of your experience. And to just kind of circle back to that last point you had, you know, personalized onboarding with a dedicated Intuit Practice Management specialist. That is something that we think is immensely valuable. And it is something that we definitely are not planning on taking away. I think we are changing things and iterating all the time, and we're trying to improve, but this is something that we've heard a lot of feedback about in a very positive way. And so we do think this is something, you know, again, that we as Intuit are bringing as a value of what makes IPM different. You know, it's not just the software, it's also the way that we support you and the way that we get you up and running and the way we offer you that onboarding care and support. And it starts from the beginning of getting that personalized onboarding person who's going to walk you through everything. Clayton, anything to add before we get to our last poll question here?
No, I think it was really insightful hearing it directly from someone who's lived it. And also coming in, you know, I think that hats off to you, Kristen, for coming into a firm that's, you know, needed to make a change and implementing that change at the right time and, you know, biting the bullet because it makes sense for your future plans, right? It makes sense for the business and what you purchase. So, you know, all the things that we talk about value with Intuit Practice Management, I really think that you saw that up front and saw that that's why you needed a change and got that across to your team and then your overseas team as well, you know.
Thank you.
So,
yeah, it was, like I said, some days I wasn't their favorite because, you know, I'm coming in there changing stuff.
it's not your job though, right?
I think so.
So, you know, real quick, we did not dive into the product today, but we did get in there the last 2 webinars. So if you haven't had a chance yet, you might want to go back and watch those again. Additionally, you know, you can head to the website. We have a lot of information there, as well as being able to get or request a demo or find out more about the product. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and launch our last poll question, which is just, would you like to know more, or, you know, maybe you're already a customer, and if yes, thank you so much. We definitely appreciate your business. Really excited that you decided to join us today.
Jeremy, while we wait on those answers to come in, we've had a lot of people in the Q&A ask about product, and I know you just covered that, but one just wants to sign up for a plan, which is awesome. But so, you know, fill this question in. We'll make sure that we get you the right resources. If you do need a demo, we'll absolutely get you what you need, answer any outstanding questions, walk you through Intuit Practice Management in the areas that you need help with. And then also check out our website. There's tons of resources there. But let us know here so we can get the right resources assigned to you, so you guys can, you know, get started prior to it gets crazy busy, right?
Definitely. All right. With that, I think, go ahead. One last person just answered. Thank you for that. I think we're going to wrap it up with that. Kristen, thank you again so much for joining. Really appreciated your time today and being able to hear your story. And again, just thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Absolutely. Thanks to you guys. And good job with IPM. Monica's got to get a gift basket this year.
We will pass that along. Thank you, Kristen. It was nice speaking with you.
You too.
Ready.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Jeremy, Clayton, I know there was one question about a demo. Do you guys have a link or a sign-up form that I can send out?
Yeah, on website we can you can sign up directly from there.
Okay.
Which is in the deck.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for your time today. We have had fun with our 3 practice management webinars with Intuit. So thank you guys so much, and happy holidays. We have one more Insightful Accountant webinar today at 2 p.m. Eastern. That's our last one for the year. Hope to see you there. And again, have a good day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.